Hello, my name is Christopher Dirks, and this is my data analysis protocol, my module 17 for AEP 858. To start off, here's my graphic. So the first part of it is the collecting and organizing. So in this stage, the data is being collected and related to the problem that we're focusing on. The data is being organized so that it is relevant and helps the planning process. So organizing with something like a pivot table. I found those very useful throughout this course. So that's part of that first step. The next step is analyzing and planning. So here the data is being analyzed and questions are being developed. So in all of the assignments throughout this course, I feel like the analyzing needs to start the kind of the ball rolling. And as I was analyzing different types of data, that's when the questions started to arise. So that's part of that step. And then once we have questions, the plan can start taking shape. So once you're identifying the issues and finding or asking yourself questions, that's when solutions start to develop as well. Implementing and tracking is the next step. So the plan will be implemented. So between the blue and the gray step here, that's when the plan is fully developed, and then it gets implemented. And as the plan is implemented, it's important to track that data as well. And that's the part that creates the full cycle. So as you're implementing and tracking your new strategies, that information can then be organized and analyzed and implemented in a new plan. So that's how the continuous improvement is also worked in. How will teachers react to this? I think that a good strategy for me as a principal would be to have 3 or 4 different data analysis protocols and use some perception data and figure out what would be the best, what would fit with the most teachers. And as a coach and a teacher, I know that you're never going to make everybody happy. So at the end of the day, it needs to be you need to capture the most positive, you know, comments with it, and use the one that really I believe is going to help. Um, so moving on to the next part is my graphic organizer. So using a lot of the readings and Victoria Bernhardt's analysis of continuous school improvement is how I kind of shaped my graphic organizer. So relating it to the graphic above, the collection and organization is kind of the where are we now. So it's very flexible. So one of the questions was how can it be adjusted for different classes or units? So that's this first part, is how are you going to use it? What are you going to be using it for? What data will you be collecting? So maybe it's a unit test, maybe it's a quiz. And then do you have a baseline? Do you have a place to kind of start and see where the students are? So maybe a pretest. The next part is the analyze and plan, and that's the where do we want to be and what are the gaps. So make some predictions about based on your baseline and your what type of data you'll be collecting. It's important to kind of have an idea in your mind of where you think things are going to go. So what does the data tell you, and what are the areas of concern? So that's where the analysis and then the kind of planning and questioning starts to come into play. And the implementation and tracking, that is the goal. That is what do we want to really focus on? What are we going to do? How will this help us improve? How do we apply that strategy, the way that we're going to improve? And then how will we track that information? So that's the how do we get there, how do we implement, and how do we evaluate? And again, so how do we track that information kind of loops back into the top, where we are collecting and organizing new data to create new plans for that continuous improvement. So throughout this course, I've learned a lot of different things about data, and this is kind of me putting it all together. And I think for me anyway, this would be a very clean, concise way to track that information. Thank you.